So what I'm going to talk about is really something I've been working on, I guess, in the team for like 2 years now, and I think the things I'm going to run through are still we're early stage and we're learning. So I guess any feedback or thoughts are always appreciated. So what I'm going to talk through is why Kantar is particularly interested in chatbots, and just talk about what an AI conversation looks like, what it looks like now, and what it could look like, and then dive into some use cases, and then show what the future might look like. And it's sort of scary that the future seems to be arriving very quickly. Yeah. So let's just start with what a chatbot is. Really, it's just software, and you interact with it in a natural way, so you talk to it. And these things are not new. In fact, they come from 1967 was probably the first chatbot built, and it was just using some psychological tricks to keep someone talking, basically. But what has happened since then, and I think a real turning point was probably 2 years ago when Facebook opened up its platform to enable people to create chatbots, because all of a sudden you had something that was a niche academic thing, and now I think there's 30,000 developers creating these things every day, so that's been a change. So one of the big reasons we're interested is reach. So when you think about how people use a mobile phone, and we have got this on our mobile behavioural panels, you find that 90% of the time they're on a phone, someone is on a messenger or messaging. So they're either sending an SMS, or they're on WhatsApp, or if you're in China, or they're on WeChat. So 90% of the time, someone is on the phone and they're talking to other people and communicating. And the other interesting thing is that most people only have a few apps on the phone, and I think especially like kids, delete apps or abandon. So if we've got a research app on someone's phone, and they go to a party and take a whole lot of video, and they want to take another video but it says memory is full, all of a sudden they start sharing all the apps, the core ones, and the core ones are back to that messaging. They're going to keep Facebook on, they're going to keep WhatsApp, and in China they're going to keep WeChats, which is an important point. So back to the scale, and it's almost unprecedented. When I was saying 2 years ago, Facebook Messenger had 3 or 400,000 people on it, and 2.5 years later, they've hit 1.3 billion people using Facebook Messenger, and Facebook within South Africa is 26 million. In fact, the stat I had here was already out of date, and we met with Facebook yesterday, and they updated us as 26 million now. WhatsApp is 1.5 billion users, and 50% of the population in South Africa uses WhatsApp. And WeChat, not so long ago, was 700 million, just to give you some idea where the trend is. And now it's a billion, and 100 million people use it out of China. So it just really shows you the rise of messaging app, and that's a one-on-one communication. So in terms of what's happening, so we've started, and it's just incredible how quickly this area is emerging. We started with chatbots, and before we know it, Amazon Alexa and Google Home are moving to voice services. So all of a sudden we have voice as a channel, and then beyond that, what's happening is with Amazon and Google, they're just trying to put conversational interfaces into everything. So whether it's a kiosk or a car, or in Alexa's, in Amazon's case, even a mic, we can talk to your microwave if you want to. And so really the proposition, this is where Facebook started. Their business case was brands and their customers need to connect 24/7, and don't ring, just you use the tools that you already use, your messenger, and chat and communicate with a brand that way. And I think the other important point is, and I'll show you some of the research examples, is that when we create a chatbot or a persona, it really sits top of mind. So as you talk to it, like on the right hand side, you can see the phone. You'll have a presence really at the top of Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. Okay. So really just going to give some practical examples of what we're doing. So we're creating chatbots, I guess globally, all the time. I'm just going to go through what we do. So generally we use like Facebook targeting or ad targeting to find the people that we want in the moment. And back to that scale, that really gives us a pool of 1.3 billion people which we can target onto these studies, and that allows us, the demographics, but also allows us to find interests and niche interests, so we can sort of do these things at scale that we haven't been able to do before. We find it's very personal, and this is one of the challenges of conversational AI. It's a very personal channel, so you have to treat these conversations, and I don't use the word panel, we're just people, we talk to people, but you have to be very respectful. We have to make these conversations feel like a conversation, so we have to be quite agile. So by that, it means that the chat reacts to what people say. So if someone says something that's horrid, the next question won't be, why do you like it so much? We react. But we need to react, react to what people say. So if they mention something that is, sensory or to do with taste, we might probe more on that. And often it's the inverse. It might be that we need to find out, what would put you off buying this. It's like always price. The price will go up. So it might be, well, we know about price. What about these things? And start probing in a sort of natural way to really, to solve problems. Probably don't quite well. So this is some examples of what we've been doing. I think our first chatbot was run in Vietnam, and it was actually probably one of our more complex ones, and it was really looking at people who used to use fabric conditioner, which was like really hard to recruit in the first place. But we used a chatbot to talk to people, and then at some point we handed over to qual researchers. So we've talked to I think about 2,000 people in total, and from that we managed to boil down some really interesting behaviours, and then we could have a one-on-one conversation. So that was one of our first, and it worked really well. But what you can see here is that persona is really important. This is slightly different in terms of doing research. So when you create a new chatbot, one of the first considerations is who's the audience and who do you want to talk to, and who would they like to talk to. Some thought at the start of a study goes into persona, because we want it to feel like someone you would talk to in that situation or in that moment. And somebody you would naturally like to communicate with. I think that's an important consideration. That also flows to the dialogue that you create. Everything moves to first person. So it's I and what do you think of this, and very much a more conversational style of doing research. And the other really interesting thing is that you find that this style of research really works across a lot of industries. So, the examples here, we've gone from, government work, monitoring, I guess, the effectiveness of, communication. We've gone from, soap powder, and to tea, understanding beverage consumption, but just really showing that this method works in just so many different ways. And we're already running in a dozen markets. So just to show you what a Facebook ad looks like when we do this thing, really it's just really short, engaging ads. And what happens is back to the targeting, we look at the demographics and interest and how many people we want to talk to. These things appear in their feed, and simply they click on the message and the chat, and the conversation starts. And you can see at the top it's all persona based. So they're either talking to Maria or Stevie and doing the survey. I shouldn't use the word survey. We've got dialogue or conversations. So here's an example. This is I'm not sure if it's animated or not. No, it's not. Sorry. This is our tea study. So in that case, we go from ad, and you can see on the right hand side we go straight into conversation. And we've got the ability for, with ad targeting, we can talk to multiple subgroups as well. So we know who we're talking to in the data, and we don't need to ask a lot of questions, because we already know someone's male, 25 and interested in ice hockey. Yeah. But that data is already tagged, so we don't need to ask that, and we can just go straight into the conversation. So just to go through some case studies. This one, what we're finding is, we're calling it like quality quant. We're finding chatbots are really good for really doing qual at scale. We haven't quite organised what you would call it, we'll call it quality quant for now, but really what that means is we get a lot of verbatim and images and audio and unstructured data from these conversations. But we do it at scale. At a minimum, we're talking to 100 people. There's no real maximum because of the scale of messaging clients and the ad network. So in this case, this chatbot was running in 4 markets at the same time: in China, Germany, UK, and the US, which is like quite an achievement. And this was working for a large global fashion brand. It was really trying to match the moments and fashion and outfits with occasion. And we just found the client was extremely impressed. We found especially in China the quality of photos, the quality of information, and the care that people were taking when sharing information was just was amazing. And just give you just some examples.
Sorry, is NLP neuro-linguistic programming?
Just natural language processing. So probably, if I go back to that, and I think one of the challenges of this space, and some speakers will talk about this shortly, is we've got to be able to process and understand a lot of unstructured data. We're trying to move to listening to people, listening to what people want to say, but that requires a lot of natural language processing and routines to do that at scale, so we can find the interesting patterns and then delve further. It is a challenge, but I can talk about the things that we're doing. And so I'll just put that example. Here is probably I'd call it almost like a crazier example. This is where we've got a chat bot on Facebook recruiting people onto voice software. So in this case, a Google Home. So I've got an example. I'm not sure if that one's on the place. That is. But what we found was that recruiting via Facebook is really interesting to almost get people or to do tasks that you would never have thought of. In this case, we found people who owned one of these devices. We gave them instructions on what to do and how to connect, and then the rest of the study was actually carried out on the voice device. And this is sort of really important because if you're doing, in this case, if you're doing research about voice devices, it's best to do research on that voice device because one, they've got it in the first place, and two, they're obviously in the moment because they're talking to us. So I'll just give you an example here.
Okay, Google. Talk to product feedback.
Okay, let's get product feedback. Hello, would you like to give some product feedback?
Yes.
What type of product would you like to give feedback about? For example, hair care, cosmetics, or laundry.
Hair care.
What is the brand and details of the product?
Kantar shampoo.
So I'll skip from that. But you just get an idea of where things.
Talk to product feedback.
Just giving you an idea of what a voice interaction could look like, and you have to think these devices are so new that they're only going to get better, and the voices are getting more natural, which I think is going to be very important. And this is another example where we're using chatbots to run a diary in Japan. And I think one of the important things about chatbots is all about timers and messaging and finding the right moment. So for this chatbot, it would wake up every 2 hours and ask people, whether they're drinking something, and if they were, it would find out more about it. It also had the ability to fall asleep because we didn't want waking up at 3 in the morning and going, "Are you drinking anything?" So that's the sort of control we've got. But you can sort of see from the user interface, just how sort of friendly. We try and make it friendly and fun, but we're also trying to match the language that people use when they're on a messenger or WhatsApp. It is fun. There's lots of emojis and GIFs and images, and it's really sort of like, I guess, fun dialogue. And the reason for that is because we want people to remain engaged, and we're trying to make diary study something that's fun to do and rewarding. And just to give you some idea of the platform that we've built to do all this, so we've created this ourselves, and really at the centre we've got we create a script, but beyond that, this is when we bring in natural language. We're not talking about the routing, it can sensitively move through a conversation. These are the capabilities that we've built in, and I guess the timers. I think the other important thing is that we're trying to bring research to where people already are. We're not trying to move people onto different platforms. So you can see on the right hand side, you script once, and that same thing could work with voice, it could work with WeChat in China, it could be Facebook, it could be Alexa, and who knows in the near future where we're going to take research to. And whilst we're doing this, in the back of our minds the whole time, we're really looking at what's happening in the world with AI, which are basically these sort of like, recursively improving systems. So, when you think about logistics and what have you, they're constantly taking data, analysing it, and becoming more efficient. And this is what AI is driving globally, and I think almost every business will be considering how AI tools can help with efficiency. So when looking at chatbots and how these things fit in, we've got to be always aware of how do these things fit into the sort of the cycles, or these global business cycles. So for us, we really believe that there's going to be more, the conversational interface in that way between a customer and a brand is only going to increase. And it's reasonably obvious that, well, when you think, just to give you an idea, like Amazon Alexa, that team is already 10,000 people working on it every day. I mean, the scale is just unprecedented. So we think that, creating these chatbots and understanding conversational data and how people talk about your brand is really important, because I think most people are going to have to create these interfaces and successfully, but to do that they need to understand the language of how people want to talk to you, and they need to understand the changing landscape. So in terms of Kantar, I've just sort of like put some of the things that we're doing just very quickly in terms of AI, and I'll show you how these things come together, because I think most companies and most of the world, in fact, is sort of at this point where we've got almost separate sort of AI techniques and silos. So we might have perceptual AI, which is like face coding, and I think if you like Google China and face recognition, you'll see that there's cameras doing stuff everywhere, but that's perceptual AI. We use it to test ads, obviously, so when someone watches an ad, we see whether they like it or not. Computer vision, that's when we're automatically recognising brands, products and themes within images at scale. And text AI is where we are finding topics and themes at scale. But these are sort of buckets at the moment, but I think what happens is eventually they're all just going to come together. And so moving towards the future, often in research we do post-project analysis. So we do the study, we take the data, we analyse it, we code it, and then with those AI tools I mentioned before, often they come in at the end. But I think tomorrow is about these systems will be doing this in real time, and then tagging the data and understanding it and reacting to it in real time. That's sort of where we're heading. And I've got human in the loop down the bottom, because realistically with AI there's a lot of hype in the market, but they're actually very blunt, reasonably blunt objects. They know what you tell it to know, and they don't know anything else. So often they're a great tool at processing a lot of data, but they've still got a way to go before they find the nuance that we need. And just another example, we're trying to move, when I was talking about understanding the evolving conversation. So a lot of the projects that we do are very sort of one-off. So we'll test ads, we'll find out about a product, we'll look at a trigger or a barrier, and we'll do this very quickly. And that's one thing with this style of research, is very fast. You'll reach your 200 or 1,000 people, like almost, I wouldn't say instantaneous, but within a day or 2 days. It's incredible. But what that means is that we're not having time to train these things to get smarter and understand more about that conversational landscape. So this style here is where, and I've called it vegan, but I've made up some of the stuff, but just to give you an idea of where we're going, is that we will talk to a cohort or talk about a category, but we'll do it over time, and over time our language models and what we understand will get better, and we'll find, like, for instance, I don't know what like Tesla, vegan leather, I don't know, but we'll find these topics of interest, and then we'll be able to dive into those more. So over time, that chatbot will understand, that cohort, not just what they like in terms of a specific category, but overall. So that's where we're trying to move, and we've got this concept we're calling war rooms. Is when we'll start and stop, we'll analyse. We need to find a very efficient way of doing this. We'll take that unstructured data, we'll process it, we'll see it, we'll share it, we'll talk about it, and then we'll retrain it, and this thing will start asking different questions and probing and evolving. And so I've just got some examples of where things are going in the future. Really, had those AI tools, which are all sitting in separate buckets, often, probably separate vendors doing things. I think we're moving to this place where it's sort of merging. I'll just give an example of what some of these techniques and how they could come together.
Hi there, my name's Simon Grebe, I work for FaceMe, and this is just a really quick, no-frills demonstration of our FaceMe EVA digital employee platform. So all of our digital employees are personalised for the organisations that we work with. So different face, different voice, and different personality depending on the service experience that they want to obviously portray out to market. So we use a range of technology, including facial recognition for biometrics and sign-in, that type of thing, and motion detection just to help with really natural and empathetic conversations. And obviously a range of natural language and AI tools to actually get customers to an outcome and to an end goal. So this is Eva, and enjoy.
Welcome back to Verizon, Simon. It's great to see you again. I have been trained to help you with plan recommendations. If you give me your phone number, we can get started.
That sounds great. My phone number is 021-818-594.
Perfect. For today's demo, I can recommend the best plan for you. Are you ready to be amazed?
I am definitely ready to be amazed.
Great. I've looked at your usage and highly recommend the Beyond Unlimited plan. Super fast and unlimited for only $50 a month. Looking at your reaction, maybe we should check out another option.
Eva, can you show me your sad face?
Not sure why, but here goes.
Let's play a game.
Okay, let's play a game. You make a face, and I'll see if I can copy you. Say exit when you want to return to our chat.
I've got my favourite face, and then I'll stop when I get to the favourite face. That one. So I guess I'm happy to talk to people further. We've got like an example chatbot that you can try out, and all that's required is you have to go to Facebook Messenger and just type and the chatbot, and you can get an idea of how one of these things work. But yeah, thank you very much.